So, dear students, I'm going to discuss a very interesting poem by Philip Larkin entitled Toads. Now, when you hear this word, toads, this is the name of the poem. Now, when you just listen to this word, toad, it conjures up images of a grotesque little amphibian. And this little amphibian is the base of this poem, Toads. As you know, that a toad is, as I had just told you, a small amphibian species with a very ugly look. It hibernates for long months and is known to be not particularly agile, very inactive, very dull. In this poem, toads has been used in metaphorical sense. The poet describes two toads. One is the exterior influence that society has on an individual to work, and the other is the interior or personal prompting to work. So when you read this poem, you'll find out how two toads are there. Exterior influence of the society to work, and also the interior, which is the inner prompting. In this poem, the speaker, the poet himself, lets out a cry of frustration against his job that sits upon him like a slimy, frustrating, suffocating toad. The speaker dreams of being free of it, but he recognizes that something toad-like in himself that makes him cling to his security even in his frustration. In day-to-day life, we find out how we have two kinds of people actually. One who take a lot of interest in their job, in their work, while others are the shirkers. Bane raho, pagla kaam karega agla is a concept actually which is very popular among the people. Now the word toads has been used, as I have told you, as a metaphor to describe the innate tendency among humans to be shirkers, dull, lazy, indolent, and parasitical. And I think every day you have this kind of approach, whether to enjoy the life or whether to do the work. This poem was composed in the year 1953 and published in the collection of poem called The Less Deceived in 1955. And as I have just told you, that this describes about the relationship between the working man and his job. Working man and job. This is there in this poem. From the poet's perspective, a job is something one must do 6 days a week. And after doing 6 days a week, a person gets, pressurized, gets tired. And that is why in the poem he asks the question for what price we are doing the work for 6 days. Uh, if you just, look at the poems of Philip Larkin, then you'll find out that, drudgery of the work, it's a common theme among Larkin's work, especially in his two poems which are very harp serious in tone. One is Toads, which I'm going to explain, and one is Toads Revisited. Uh, when you read this poem, Toads, you'll find out very interesting line in the beginning. That why should I let the toad work squat on my life? And can't I use my wit as a pitchfork and drive the brute off? This is the speaker of the poem Toads. As a younger poet, Larkin told an interviewer for the Guardian, and he said, I would like to quote his lines. I read these lines in a critical book. The lines are that, work encroaches like a weed over the whole of my life. These are the words of Larkin himself. Work encroaches like a weed over the whole of my life. It's all the time absorbing creative energy that might have gone into poetry. These are the lines. But an older Larkin learned to balance work with his creative vocation, that is poetry. Now, Larkin is always considered as a traditional poet and master in his craft. In this poem, he combines formal poetic structure with colloquial language. Now, this is something which is very significant. Language in the poem is very colloquial. He has borrowed some devices from William Butler Yeats and Thomas Hardy. And, in this poem, we have 9 quatrains. That is stanza of 4 lines. We have 9 quatrains in this poem. And throughout the poem, you'll find out his humorous and pessimistic bias. The stanzas themselves are built on AB rhyme pattern. And when I say AB, the meaning, this is actually the pattern AB. First line rhyming with third and second line rhyming with fourth. Now this kind of, this is traditionally known as hymnal measure. This kind of pattern. But what you should also remember that Larkin bends his own rules with the use of slant rhymes. I'm telling you all these words because most of the time we'll find out that such questions are asked in UGC NET examinations also. So, slant rhymes or words which may have matching consonant or vowel sounds, but not both. When you read the poem, you'll find out that an example of this is there in the first stanza where life and off they are shown as the matching words, or in the third line, lispers, third stanza, lispers and poppers are said to be rhyming words. This use of half or slant rhyme, it was made famous by a famous American poet, Emily Dickinson, who is famous for his theme of death. Now, when you read this poem, you'll find out two very important themes. One is search for self, and the other is duty and responsibility. These are the two famous, themes. Coming to the poem, the first stanza, and you'll find out that the poem's main image provides an objective, correlative for oppressive daily work. And as I told you in the beginning, the toad is not a physical animal. It is used as a metaphor to represent the pressures, of the world. Look at the first stanza. Why should I let the toad work squat on my life? Rhetorical question is there. Now, the author is clearly an overworked person, and who finds that my life is robbed of all good things because of heavy pressure of work burden. Why should I let the toad work squat on my life? Toad work means the hard demands of a regular job, and they're compared with ugly toad. Toad, as I told you here, is a symbol of boring work that the poet wants to give up. Squat means to sit tight and control the freedom of life. So why should I let the toad work squat on my life? Can't I use my wit as a pitchfork? Pitchfork is a form tool like a fork to lift dry grass. It's a beautiful use of simile. Can't I use my wit as a pitchfork to drive the brute off? Brute here is the ugly toad. This shows the poet's hatred for hard work. Can't I use my wit as a pitchfork and throw it away? Throw it away. Now in the next stanza, he says 6 days of the week it swells with the sickening poison just for paying a few bills that out of proportion. Now 6 days of the work, he says throughout the week, I am under the pressure and burden of a very hard work. And here, sickening poison, the boredom of hard work is compared to the poison of, the toads. Why am I doing the hard work for 6 days? Just for paying few bills. He says, I am doing the hard work for 6 days in order to earn, some amount of money to pay the bills. To meet the bare expenses of living. And he says that, it's a bad bargain because I'm losing uh, out too much to gain too little. That is out of proportion. I'm spending the time, the energy for 6 days and just to pay the few bills. How much amount of energy and work I'm spending for 6 days, and it is only for paying few bills. I don't like this. As you know, that if you read the biography of Philip Larkin, then you'll find out that he was doing the job of a librarian, and that is, that was quite, monotonous for him. Coming to next stanza, lots of folk live on their wits. You must have seen in day to day life there are two kinds of people: one who are very serious and sincere towards duties, and others are shirkers. So, those who are very sincere and serious towards their duties, they sometimes think that why are we spending too much energy on the work others are not doing, and we are getting the same salary? So, a kind of two toads, one of, enjoying the life without doing anything, and another to do the work. I think he is trying to explain these points. He says that lots of folk live on their wits. You'll find out a very comic tone here in these lines, and beautiful example of alliteration here. Lots of folk live on their wits. The poet argues that there are so many people who are using their wits and living. Say, lecturers, men of letters. I mean, they earn their living through lectures and talk shows. Then lispers. Lispers mean speakers who use language by, lisping like children, so that it may please others. Sometimes, people like lisping. So those who make talk shows, or those who lisp, this is actually losel. Losels. Losels are, worthless people, you can say. Worthless people. Lob, lollyman, louts, all these are archaic words. Slang, actually, slang words. They do not end as paupers. Pauper here means poor people. All these people, they are not doing a lot of work. I am doing 6 days work. I am doing hard work. But these people are not doing the work. Even then, they are living, they are surviving. They do not end as paupers. Lots of people live up lanes with fires in a bucket. There are so many people, poor and the destitute, living on, roads, and they're having fires in a bucket. They're moving from one place to the other in order to fight the cold. They sometimes eat windfalls, sometimes tinned sardines, eating very common, items. So, windfalls means things which come to a person as, a matter of, luck. You get it, and, then you eat it. They like all these things. The nippers, children, have got bare feet. The unspeakable vibes are as skinny as, whippets. Their nippers have got bare feet. Their children are too poor to buy, shoes. They cannot afford shoes. Their unspeakable vibes are as skinny as whippets. Whippets. This is a British dog breed of medium size. They seem to be very, lean and thin. Again, similarly, their vibes are very, lean and thin. No one actually is starved. But do they starve? I think they are not starving. They are also living. They are also surviving. And look at me, I am doing hard work for 6 days. Then we are coming to the main point. Why do people, work? Generally in government jobs here in India also you'll find out that how people just wait for their pensions and all that. Because it is something which is their future security. So, were I courageous enough to shout, stuff your pension? Do I have that much courage to say to my boss that is stuff with your pension? Can I say it to my boss? Do I have that much courage? Because I think we are doing the job only for this point, for future security. So do I have that much courage to say to my boss, stuff your pension? But I know all too well that the stuff that dreams are made on. But we know that everything is based on that pension. A man builds his hopes on and dreams on his pension. I think when you read these lines, you're reminded of the lines from a famous play by Shakespeare. We are such a stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. So, were I courageous? The poet wishes that he could be able to live without the pension and say to my boss that I am rejecting your pension, just keep your pension with you. But I think I cannot say. We cannot say it because we have no other option. This is actually something, which is meant for the security for future. You'll find out here how the tone of the poem changes. For something sufficiently toad-like squats in me too. Its hunkers are as heavy as hard lug and cold as snow. The author, says, the speaker says, that things are not that easy or simple. Just as that, irksome, disturbing toad, there is another toad inside me that is also quite, demanding and unforgiving. It does not want to give anything free. Its hunkers are heavy, hard luck, and cold as snow. So he's coming to another, toad. and will never allow me to blarney my way of getting the fame and the girl and the money all at one sitting. Blarney. The blarney means talk which aims to charm or flatter or persuade the people. It will never allow me to blarney my way of getting the fame, the girl, and the money all at one sitting. The second toad is quite hard nosed. It does not allow any kind of reverie where the comforts of life come on their own without toil. If one wants to marry a beautiful girl or live a comfortable life, one has to work hard for it. So another toad, the second toad, will never allow me to blarney my way of getting the fame and the girl and the money all at one sitting. It does not allow any kind of reverie where comforts of life come on their own without toil, without hard work, without labor. You have to hard work, you have to work hard to achieve that. Now the speaker says, I do not say one bodies the other. One spiritual truth, but I do say it's hard to lose either when you have both. Now the speaker say that these two toads which I have described are quite separate from each other. But they must coexist in an individual to make up his bitter, sweet life. One body is the other. I do say it's hard to lose either when you have both. In other words, human life must have a component of luxury and comfort and a component of slog and sweat. If you want to lead a luxurious life, you have to work for it. And as you have seen in most of the cases, that if a child is begging some amount of money from you at the cost of the item which he is selling, sometimes you give the amount without taking that item from him, he refuses. That first buy this balloon, then I'll take this 10 rupees or so. And there are some people who take it, you give them because they are just begging for it. So if you want to do a luxurious life, then okay, that's fine. But do the work, then lead that life. So beautifully, the poet has described the two kinds of toads in this poem. And as I told you that this poem has some autobiographical touches also, because he was doing the job of a librarian that he is describing here. As I told in the beginning also, that he is trying to explain his attitude towards his salaried job of a librarian. And we have humorous and half serious tone throughout the poem. Thank you very much.